Good afternoon. We are going to start in just a moment and let folks get into the Zoom room. Good afternoon and welcome to today's webinar, Heroes in the Making, Explore Careers in Behavioral Health. This webinar is co-sponsored by the Great Lakes MHTTC and SAMHSA. The Great Lakes ATTC, MHTTC, and PTTC are funded by SAMHSA under the following cooperative agreements. The opinions expressed in this webinar are the views of the speaker and do not reflect the official position of the Department of Health and Human Services and SAMHSA. The MHTTC network believes that words matter and uses affirming, respectful, and recovery-oriented language in all activities. For more upcoming events and information, please follow the Great Lakes MHTTC on social media or visit our website. A few housekeeping items. If you're having any technical issues, please individually message me, Jen Winslow, or Cherie Nichols in the chat section, and we will be happy to assist you. If you have questions for the panelists, please put those in the Q&A section on your Zoom toolbar, and we will do our best to get them addressed. If you need live caption or live transcript, please enable them by going into the More section of your Zoom toolbar and select Live Caption. At the end of the session, you will be automatically redirected to a very brief survey. Certificates of attendance will be emailed to those who attend this training in full. Please allow up to 2 weeks to process. And now I'm going to turn it over to our Great Lakes MHTTC co-director, Cherie Nichols.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome again. As Jen said, I'm Cherie Nichols. I'm the co-director of the Great Lakes MHTTC. Today, we'll be spotlighting behavioral health providers from our Great Lakes Region 5, which includes Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Minnesota, Ohio, and Wisconsin. This webinar was created to highlight our final MHTTC project with our 6 state subcontractors. Each state will introduce their organization and then share part of their pre-recorded interviews. This project was designed to inspire students and young professionals interested in behavioral health careers by providing a firsthand look at what it's like to work in counseling, social work, peer support, and other behavioral health roles. Each video will address key questions, such as the objectives of these roles. I lost my spot, sorry. The day-to-day responsibilities and the education and training pathways required to enter the field. You will also learn about the unique perks, job perspectives, salary ranges, and financial support options available, including loan forgiveness and paid internships. And finally, but not least, Commander Cheryl Trail will join us from Region 5 Health Resources and Service Administration, otherwise known as HRSA, to discuss national recruitment efforts and resources available to those interested in pursuing a career in behavioral health. I also believe that it's important for us to share the why behind this project. Many have only heard of the difficulties in behavioral health careers. They often receive or hear the narrative that says jobs in the behavioral health always have high burnout and always have compassion fatigue. Staff feel undervalued and underpaid. But our team wanted to take time to propose a different narrative, a narrative that says, yes, careers in behavioral health can be hard, but they can also be very rewarding. You can be better paid and more valued than you think. So we hope that those of you that are on this webinar today and those that may be watching this recording later will share this with local middle schools, high schools, and colleges and any other local organizations in your areas so that they could also benefit and hear all of the rewarding opportunities that are out there. A final note about our MHTTC network. Our grant funding actually ends this month, September 29th. Therefore, our website will no longer be available after that time. So I first encourage you to check our website and download or save any materials or resources. You'll see that Jen will place that link into the chat. And second, we're in the process of moving all of the things from our MHTTC website over to our main Center for Health Enhancement Studies, Systems Studies website, or as we call it, CHESS, which is where we're housed at UW-Madison. Jen will also place that link in the website so that you can bookmark and check back later as we'll be adding resources as we go. We hope to host all the recordings from this project and many other resources there. Jen will also share a final link to our YouTube playlist that also will have these videos available. So to start us off first, I would like to share about our partner in Minnesota, who is unable to be here today for today's event. People Incorporated is a nonprofit organization that serves people with mental illness in the Minneapolis and St. Paul metro area. The Training Institute at People Incorporated supports agencies wanting to improve the skills of their staff and leadership as they work with people experiencing mental health concerns, dysregulation, and trauma. They offer skills for connecting in crisis, recognizing a better way to work with those experiencing the effects of trauma, and working with the many ways that mental health can present. Their trainings are designed for a broad audience, all the way from human service workers to even law enforcement and shelter workers and transportation road crews. Even retail workers, rail operators, and property managers can benefit from their trainings. Their goal is to make all workplaces and workers more confident and capable to meet the needs of the broader community. But since we only have 2 hours today, we've chosen to share the link to their video, which you'll see that Jen will place in the chat again, which you can view at a later time or check back on that YouTube link. So without further ado, our next live presentation will be Kathy Cook and Carissa Morris, who will be representing Indiana.
Well, thank you, Sherry. That was a great introduction. We appreciate that. Appreciate you allowing us to present our program today and the funding that you were allowed us to complete this whole video and do all this great work with you. Chris, you want to bring up the slides? First of all, I'm going to start out a little by sharing who we are. I'm Kathy Cook. I'm the CEO of Aspen, and Carissa Morris is our special projects coordinator who gets all the glory for making the videos. She did the blood, sweat, and tears, but we are a 30-year-old organization, not-for-profit organization of community mental health centers and addiction providers. And I always like to share where Indiana is, because when you're doing a national presentation, they always get us mixed up with Illinois. So I like to share that map there. And then you can see on the far side, we have all of our treatment centers located throughout Indiana. So we have about 50 sites. Our service lines are third-party administration, training and workforce development, grants management, and health improvement. And today we're focusing on the training and workforce development. Next slide. So when they ask us which profession we wanted to focus on, obviously we need to focus on all of them because of our providers, but we picked community health workers, and we have a long history of community health workers. We've been training them since 2009, but we also have all of our counties in Indiana are federally designated mental health workforce shortage counties. And we think community health workers can fill these gaps, and they are considered a best practice for the team-based care, health education, outreach, enrollment, and information sharing. We also think close community relationships can bridge cultural and linguistic gaps to healthcare access. And we think community health workers are the key people to do that. We also think that the paraprofessional certification provides an entry into other healthcare professionals. And I've seen many, many of our students go on to do great things and open their own organizations even. So another thing that we like to focus on is training both in English and Spanish. We found that's very helpful, and we also have bilingual instructors to help them get through the training. And the most important thing, and I wanted to share with everyone, is that Indiana Medicaid reimburses for community health workers under the supervision of an Indiana healthcare provider. And I put that link in this PowerPoint so that you can go to the bulletin that outlines what they need to do to get paid. Next slide. So we really wanted to focus on community health workers, but sometimes you need some grants to support that. So we were very aggressive in seeking out support, and primarily from HRSA, who obviously helps a lot of the rural areas that in Indiana is 60% rural. And so we were able to secure these grants to help us with training community health workers. The first one was the HRSA Opioid Impacted Family Support program, which allowed participants in rural medical underserved counties to address the higher use of opioids in these areas. And we trained them as CHWs, and 95% of the participants have lived experience with family or personal OUD or SUD. The second one was the Behavior Workforce Education Program Paraprofessionals. And that was another one for CHWs to work with families coping with physical, mental, and emotional trauma that can lead to substance abuse and behavioral health disorders. And that mostly focused on the chronic health condition. And the third grant we received was the HRSA Community Health Worker Training Program. And so that helped us improve public health emergencies, address public health needs of the underserved community. And we were able to certify 70 new CHWs per year, 18 trainees enter into apprenticeship. And then we also thought there's a lot of folks out there that just need to brush up their skills or learn something different. It could be upskill their community health worker certification. Because a lot of times when you become a community health worker, you become really good and they make you a supervisor. So then we have a program that helps them learn the supervisory skills. Or if they want to specialize in like opioid, we have a designation for opioid use, and domestic violence is another designation. So we had some money for that as well. And then the fourth grant we received was actually a state grant that was through the Indiana Division of Mental Health and Addiction Recruitment and Retention Innovation Program. And that provided healthcare career pathway training for high school students. And that just started about 6 months ago. And so we're training school age youth from traditional and non-traditional learning institutes as CHWs. And you have to be 18 in Indiana to be a CHW. So the minute they turn 18, they have this certification and can use it. And with that, I will turn it over to Krista to let her tell you how we did with all those numbers.
Yeah, so just a little bit of information on, outcomes for our community health worker training program. So since 2009, 2,200 CHWs have been certified at Aspen with an 89% certification rate, 92% employment rate. Again, 95% of students have lived experience with mental health or substance use. In our apprenticeship program, we have over 106 placement sites, right? That would be, 106 different placement sites for our DOL apprenticeship program, or I'm sorry, 106 students and 53 contracted apprenticeship sites. Over 3 million has been awarded in CHW training scholarships and over 1 million in stipends to offset the cost of living, offset some of those needs while somebody is in training in order for them to get to the finish line and actually pursue this as a career path. Diversity, 44% of students are non-white with 27.3% Black or African American, 11.7% identifying as Hispanic or Latino. 21% of students enrolled in CHW programs can speak a second language, and 60.8% of those students speak Spanish, which goes back to Kathy mentioning our bilingual instructors and our kind of prioritizing offering the CHW training in a language other than English to build up the workforce. And so we've had 53 students enrolled in the CHW training in Spanish. Yeah, those would be our training numbers. The CHW interviews that we filmed, we actually filmed 2 of them, one in English and one in Spanish, again, to provide that as some additional information to Spanish-speaking students who might be looking into becoming community health worker, as well as the English version just to have. And we asked these same questions both in the English version and in the Spanish version. Cherie kind of gave an overview of those earlier, but we kind of really wanted to go through and kind of get all of that basic information that somebody might want when they're looking into career paths. Just a couple of takeaways and kind of some lessons learned from making these interviews. again, we created them in both English and Spanish. We really saw a need for that and for continued marketing with this and with all the other nodes and states as well to have it available in Spanish, just since we have so many students and a strong interest from Spanish speakers in joining our training. With the questions, we really wanted to focus on explaining those roles, duties, and responsibilities in a way that's accessible to middle and high school, right? Because I can talk about what it means to be a community health worker, but the way I discuss it or the way you discuss it may be different than what is going to pique the interest of a middle or high schooler. So we did a lot of work to kind of tap into that and see what information they want to know and what would be most beneficial for them in understanding different behavioral health workforce roles. And with part of that, we emphasize the job growth, demand, and pay expectations. Just if you're going to commit to a career path, to kind of understand those things and understand what it's going to look like, especially middle and high school. Once you graduate, once you enter the workforce, what does that look like? By 2030, it's predicted that community health worker jobs are going to increase 14% from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So we're seeing that community health workers will continue to increase and grow. And we hope that folks take that away from our interview, that there's lots of opportunity on the horizon for community health workers. And our last slide just has links to the videos. Today we're sharing the English version, but we also have the link for the Spanish version. And that wraps up our slides.
It looks like, oh, someone put their hand down. I thought there might be a question I was going to have you answer before I pulled up the video, but I will pull up the video now.
Hello, my name is Carissa Morris, and I am the Special Projects Coordinator and a Community Health Worker at Aspen out of Indiana. And today I am interviewing Michelle Glenn to learn more about what it is to be a community health worker. Michelle, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi Carissa. My name is Michelle Glenn. I am a certified community health worker and also a training instructor here at Aspen. I'm excited to be here today.
Awesome. I'm excited to interview you and learn more about the community health worker field. My first question for you is, what is the role of a community health worker?
Great question, Carissa. So the role of a community health worker, or CHW for short, is that we are valuable resources in our community. We bridge the gap that connects our community to the healthcare system. As CHWs, we're not just any healthcare worker, though. We're a trusted support that everyone can rely on. We connect people with health services, making sure they get the care they need and that it respects their background and their culture. As a CHW, again, you're not just about health, you're all about providing information and connecting people to the support that they need. Community health workers are able to spend more time with their patients, and they can do this more than a healthcare provider can do, and we have a better understanding of our patients' lives at home and how this can affect their health.
Those are some really important everyday tasks that community health workers need to do, and taking care of the general health of our community at large. So tell me, how does a community health worker usually spend their workday?
So for community health workers, each day is different. You might be setting up appointments, providing information at a health fair, or even making sure people can travel to their appointments. You're the hero that's helping people find insurance, find affordable medicine, and even finding a place to sleep or to a meal to eat.
What's the education path? What kind of training do you need to become a community health worker?
So think of becoming a CHW like taking a unique path in your education journey. Here in Indiana, you can start training to be a CHW even before you hit 18 or before you finish high school. But in order to get certified, you'll need a high school diploma and you'll need to be 18 years or older. The paths to becoming a CHW can vary from state to state, so it's all about finding the one that fits you best and also what's available in your area.
How long does it take to become a certified community health worker?
So it's a bit of a mixed bag since each state does things differently. It could take a few months or even a year, depending on the program or the state. Training can happen in person or online, so you do have options. And a lot of CHWs go for extra training to specialize in certain areas to improve their skills. Here at Aspen, we offer additional training in areas such as substance use and also domestic violence.
Yeah, it sounds like there's a lot of, the unique path, right? Everybody's going to take a different path based on where they want to work and who they want to work with. So that kind of goes into my next question for you is, what is so unique about being a community health worker?
So a CHW is a very unique role, similar to leveling up in a game, but in real life. You're diving into the world of healthcare, and the training is quicker compared to other careers. You might even score some of the on-job training or even a paid apprenticeship to support your learning. Every day is different, and you get to meet all kinds of people in your role as a CHW. Plus, you can work in many different places like hospitals, schools, or mental health centers, just to name a few. We have a better understanding of our communities we serve, and with that understanding, we're able to advocate for the needs of the community from a perspective that healthcare systems don't have.
Yeah, so what is the demand for community health workers? If somebody's interested in this type of role, can they find a job?
Most definitely. The demand for CHWs is on the rise. By 2032, experts predict 14% job growth, which is pretty sweet. You're not just helping patients stay on track, you're also filling in gaps in mental health due to workforce shortages. CHWs can have different job titles such as community outreach specialist, family liaison, and countless other titles. There's a lot of room to make this job unique to you and the communities that you serve.
How much can a community health worker expect to make?
Yeah, so in Indiana, starting out as a CHW, you can earn between $14 to $21 per hour. And as you gain more experience, you're likely to make more. Nationally, you could be looking at anywhere between $32,000 to $73,000 a year, with the median around $46,000.
Thanks for sharing that helpful information. Learned a lot about community health workers from you today. I have one more question for you, and that is, so for the training opportunities for folks that want to become community health workers, are there scholarships or ways that they can help cover that cost of their training programs?
Definitely. So sometimes you need a little help to get started, and that's okay. So some training programs offer grants to cover the cost of the training to become a CHW. And then even some other organizations or programs may offer stipends or extra cash to support your living expenses while you're training. So that's pretty awesome. Each state has programs out there that can help cover the costs or provide reimbursements. So it's definitely worth looking into if you're interested in becoming a CHW.
Awesome. I think we covered all of the basics, and I hope that everybody learned a little bit more about this really fascinating and unique job of being a community health worker. I know I did. So thank you, Michelle. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having me. Thank you, Carissa.
Thank you so much for that, Kathy and Krista, for sharing your video about community health workers and also a little bit more about Indiana too. We appreciate that. At this time, I don't see any questions specific for you guys, but if the audience has any, feel free to place it in the Q&A and we'll make sure that we get those answered for you. Next on our agenda is Bob Sheehan from Michigan. So take it away, Bob.
Hi, thanks again. Let me echo what was said from our colleagues in Indiana. Thanks, Cherie and the gang at University of Wisconsin program. I'm Bob Sheehan. I'm the CEO of the Community Mental Health Association of Michigan. We represent the interest and do training for 150 organizations across the state of Michigan, all behavioral health. In Michigan, that includes public and private providers, the public community mental health system, and there's 46 of them and about 100 private providers. In substance abuse, intellectual and developmental disability services, services to kids with emotional disturbance, and adults with serious mental illness. They're in every community in Michigan. Our system's been around since the 60s. Quite elaborate system, a lot of community-based work, a lot of use of CHWs and peers. Our focus today is on social workers. There's a, I think you know this, everyone who's listening knows this, I'm sure. there's a deep and prolonged behavioral health workforce shortage in it, and it's the deepest and longest I've ever seen. It's getting in the way of people getting services that they need, and it's across all classifications. As you heard a minute ago, it's affecting community health workers, and the peer movement is also affected by it. What are called direct care workers. There's 50,000 direct care workers in Michigan system, and we're lacking thousands of them. We lack social workers, nurses, licensed professional counselors, psychiatrists, psychologists. Today, though, we're going to be focusing on social workers. We found that every generation, the boomers, generation X, Y, and Z, all have a heart for changing the world. You'll often hear that, I'll often hear boomers, of which I am one, talk about, well, Generation Z, Y and Z, they aren't about serving others. They couldn't be more wrong. When we talk to students in high school, in community colleges, in four-year schools and graduate schools, in fact, in other professions, there are people in their 40s and 50s who are other professions who would love to work in the behavioral health care field. And a lot of them have BAs, or if they're in high school or middle school, they want to know where to go. How do they, what kind of career paths can they take to make the world a better place? So we focused on social workers. Today we have two excerpts from videos from two different social workers. And what we found interesting about these interviews is these are practitioners in both traditional and non-traditional behavioral healthcare settings. They're both social workers with MSWs. If you're in high school or middle school or college, you may not know that a master's degree in social work in most states in the country is a high-end degree. You don't need a PhD. You can work as a MSW in a wide range of behavioral healthcare settings. And it's exciting work. And right now, there are a lot of job openings for decades to come. What we like about what you'll hear from the speakers on the videos is they're quite frank about the kind of work they do and what's exciting about it. Tough work, but at the end of the day, you go home knowing you've changed the lives of people. When I talk to folks in my generation, we look back over decades of years and we can look at all the thousands of lives that we've changed. So I'll stop speaking and turn the floor over to again, these are excerpts of two working social workers who work in a wide range of settings, traditional and non-traditional, for behavioral health. So I will take the video away. This is an interview with Adam Cecil, social worker in Michigan, as part of the SAMHSA project to get the word out about what social workers do for a living, how they got there, and what motivates them. Hello, Adam. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing all right. Thanks for having me.
Good. If you could just introduce yourself and tell us what you do now, and then I'll ask you a series of questions.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Adam Cecil. I have two jobs, as you would say. I work part-time at Michigan Medicine on one of the ICUs, the trauma burn ICU, and I do that one half of the week. And then the other half of the week, I own my own private practice where I see individual therapy clients. I do that virtually from home. And then I'm on the board of directors for the Michigan National Alliance of Social Work chapter.
Quite a handful of projects. Good for you. Thanks for being willing, on top of all that, to speak with me today. I appreciate it much. Can you provide a short summary of what you do in your work, if you don't mind, in both roles? I think folks would like to know what both of those kind of practices look like.
Yeah, so I kind of think social work kind of tends to, it's such a diverse, wonderful field where we can do lots of different things. Mentally, I have it broken down into, there's two primary types of jobs, I would say, which is like case management jobs. We were helping, people achieve things. And then, clinical into like therapy-based jobs where you're doing individual therapy. So, and I like both worlds. And I feel like right now I've got a balance of both those parts of me that I really enjoy. So, on the trauma burn ICU at Michigan Medicine, I once had a friend tell me that when you come to the hospital, your life's usually in a transition. And I think as a social worker there, I'm there to help people with that transition. So no one plans to be there. People need help getting time off work. They need guidance about what services are available, what options. They need emotional support and coping. Mm-hmm. So really just like kind of going in and meeting with families and patients and seeing how I can help them and basically go through this very difficult transition. Michigan Medicine has a very supportive community with donors that help patients like with like gas cards or you know, meal reimbursements and other things. And so we have a pretty strong team where we try to help folks get what they need during that time. So that's the Michigan medicine side of things. I've also worked at other hospitals as well and other case management shops, but that's what I'm doing right now on that side of it.
Yeah. How long have you been there? Do you mind if I ask?
You know, not that long. I would say I just had my 6-month review not too long ago. So yeah, I've been doing that. But before that, I worked at a inpatient psychiatric unit at a different hospital. I've worked at a federally qualified health center and different jobs along the way. Yeah.
That background, I ask you that because a lot of people who think about social work or don't know about social work are always fascinated with the range of settings that one can work in. So thanks for sharing that. I appreciate it much.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I stopped here. You're about to talk about your private practice, I think.
Yeah. So then the other one is seeing clients, you know, on an individual basis, you know, through the private practice. I originally started doing individual therapy at the federally qualified health center I worked at, which is basically a primary care office. It's called Packard Health. It's here in Ypsilanti. It serves underserved populations. So I was doing a lot of therapy there. And when I left there, some of those clients followed me to my own private practice. And, you know, that's meeting with people one-on-one, individually, helping people heal and recover from trauma, reframe and shape their identity in a more strength-based approach, helping them achieve higher levels of function and achievement. And, you know, I think that both jobs are very satisfying in their own way. You know, I don't think there's a replacement or substitute for that individual therapy session and to see someone change on that like intimate one-on-one level.
Yeah.
And then on the case management side too, you're not with those folks as long, but it's helpful to see things, you know, go well in their own way.
What a fascinating contrast in some ways, huh? The two settings, I hadn't even thought about the length of time by which you see somebody. What a difference there. Yeah, thanks. Could you describe what you see as the purpose of both of those positions you have? Maybe there's a common purpose, or if you just talk about that a bit.
Yeah, you know, I think that in the individual therapy role, it's really to, you know, I have a trauma-based lens and approach. I think most therapists would, but you know, I think mission one is to help people through their life history. And as a therapist, you should be able to see their whole life over time and hold it in mind and help them, you know, process, you know, usually what happens with traumatic events is people internalize certain negative images about themselves from those traumatic events. Usually they happen at a time where, especially if you're a child and you're young, you can't make too much sense of the world. But you know, those issues remain and maybe they haven't been reprocessed or challenged. So I really think that the core of individual therapy is helping people with their self-identity and how they see themselves and feel about themselves, alleviating shame and guilt and healing trauma. On the case management side, I think that it is really helping people in difficult transitions. I think that because I have a lot of repetition in dealing with auto accidents and what the claims are like, or dealing with, you know, house fires and what services are there. Basically, you know, I'm there because I get the reps in and I understand the system. And when someone comes to me and they don't know how to navigate the system, you know, they have someone there that kind of is, well, I've only been there 6 months, but becoming an expert, right? So you know, helping people navigate systems on the second one for sure.
What drew you to social work? I think you alluded to that a bit, but what drew you to social work?
Yeah, I mean, I think that most people that are interested in social work, they usually will start by saying they have a desire to help others. And I think that, you know, I think it was initially very attractive to me, you know, about being, oh, I can get paid and help others. And that's a pretty satisfying, you know, life and premise. And I still stand behind that. I've kind of come throughout the years to see that many people who enter any kind of helping field, usually I think our field, and there's studies that back this up, you know, they usually have overcome some type of hardship themselves and they want to help other people through it. So I think that resonates for many of us. And so, you know, I think that I have no shortage on, purpose of work or the ability to get meaning from what I do. That's never been a problem in this field.
Today, I'm interviewing Lori Eldred, a social worker in Michigan. And Lori, if you could introduce yourself, and then I'll ask you a series of questions.
Hi, my name is Lori Eldred. I'm a social worker here in Michigan. I've been practicing it'll be 20 years this year that I've been in the field. I'm currently in private practice where I work specifically with other social workers and mental health professionals and use a bunch of treatment modalities, EMDR, IFS, polyvagal, to really help address not only just primary trauma with social workers, but secondary trauma as well, and hopefully to prevent additional secondary trauma.
What do you see as the aim or purpose of the work you've done in all of those settings? Is there any kind of a common theme through all those?
I think when I look back, just what I see is really working with folks kind of at the outside of society, of our community, folks that are more marginalized. I mean, often when I was in child protective services, poverty was such a huge influence. Parents loved their children, but often they didn't have resources or supports. We don't have in my opinion, we don't have a super strong social safety net in our country, especially for parents, especially navigating the dynamics of being a parent, having multiple children, having to work, take care of them. And so I think being able to help guide people through the system as best I could was often what I was doing with folks in child protective services, CMH, because CMH is our social, our mental health safety net, even in the criminal justice system of trying to help folks and just really navigate the system and really just to be there with them. I think also to advocate and use some of the privilege I have to help people get what they needed, or at least to feel heard in what they were experiencing.
Do you have a sense of the demand for social workers now, either in mental health or other fields? Do you have a sense of that?
Yeah, I do. I'm part of a workplace conditions through NASW Michigan. And so this is something we definitely talk about. I know that the demand is pretty great right now for social workers for a variety of different reasons. I think there is growing disparity in between groups. I think that there are more and more people who struggle for basic needs and access to resources. Social work also is just becoming, I think it is very common to work often with a social worker, to have a social worker that you might know or at the place that you might work at. I mean, we see social workers now in the corporate field, Fortune 500s and wellness programs. We see, social workers in police departments, at schools. I mean, we see social workers in so many more aspects. I think it's gotten very common to have a social worker in some capacity. We even have social workers in libraries, and there's just such cool synergy between social work and almost any other sector of our community. My final thoughts would be that the field is growing and evolving. There are so many ways that we can advocate and make a difference in our community. I think now more than ever, we need those folks who want to make our systems better, who want, to see folks that are struggling or marginalized, see them and their voices be counted and part of the larger community narrative. It, really calls, I think, as a social worker on your skills of compassion and empathy. And I think those are very important. I would say definitely if you're interested in social work, talk to different people doing different positions and roles in social work, because I think there has been for a long time just this really narrow focus that it's just child welfare. And it really has expanded to encompass so many aspects of our community. Like I said, I mean, you can be in a library as a social worker, at a school, in the criminal justice system, you can be in the medical field, you can even work at a corporate 500, company. that's, lots of companies will hire folks to be therapists, to do wellness programs, prevent burnout, address health issues. And so definitely do your research, talk to different people in the field, and really just see if the profession will be in a good alignment with your values, your ethics, and really your unique strengths.
What a great way to put it, Lori. Thanks a ton. I can't thank you enough. I think on behalf of all the folks in the Great Lakes region and anybody who might watch this video, they've walked away with an awful lot of positive things and really powerful things about what social work's about. Lori Eldred, I want to thank you an awful lot for doing this. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have any final comments, just to say that I think this is a great opportunity for folks to learn what happens in the behavioral healthcare field. So thanks much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Bob. Again, we appreciate all that you were able to share on the 2 different videos and different kind of opportunities that are out there for social workers. Next up, we have Elijah Jones from Ohio. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Elijah, he, him, his. I'm actually a social worker and a consultant with the Ohio Association of County Behavioral Health Authorities. This is a statewide organization that represents the interest of Ohio's county alcohol, drug addiction, and mental health boards, which are statutorily empowered to develop, plan, fund, manage, and evaluate community-based mental health and addiction services. So as you can imagine, there is a strong interest to ensure that future heroes are available to address Ohio's behavioral health needs. Today, you'll be seeing 2 videos, one from the perspective of peer support and the other of a school-based social worker. But I wanted to give a little context behind these and how it kind of fits in with the Ohio landscape. Peer supporters, as you're probably aware, are people with lived experience with behavioral health challenges, or they're people who have helped those who have these behavioral health challenges navigate the different services that are available. In Ohio, not everyone who works as a peer supporter is certified. However, we have done a lot of work to encourage certification, and fairly recently, as in terms of policy, I should say, we've adopted some rules that allow for 3 types of certified peer supporters. That's recovery supporters, youth peer supporters, and family peer supporters. Demand for behavioral health services in Ohio has increased 353% from 2013 to 2019. While peer support does play an important role in helping those with behavioral health challenges, the licensed workforce has only increased 174%. Right now, there are about 2.4 million Ohioans who live in communities with a shortage of behavioral health professionals. To address this problem, part of the strategy under Governor DeWine's leadership has been the Great Minds Fellowship, which involves 3 state agencies, including the Ohio Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. This fellowship provides up to $10,000 to assist with the cost of obtaining eligible degrees or certifications for students in their final 2 years of study in professions like social work, marriage and family therapy, mental health counseling, psychiatric and mental health nursing, and substance abuse addiction counseling. Ohio social workers enjoy a large scope of practice that includes diagnosing and treating behavioral health problems. We license social workers at the bachelor's and master's level, and there are 2 levels of licensing. That's the licensed social worker, the LSW, and the licensed independent social worker, the LISW. The LISW requires a master's degree, 2 years post-master's experience that's been supervised by someone with the correct credential, and then passing the clinical or advanced exam. Social workers have, as I said, social workers have this great scope of practice, but it really extends beyond behavioral health and includes so many areas such as like We have social workers in nursing homes, social workers at hospitals, social workers in corrections. We are doing more around social workers and co-responder models with law enforcement. While social workers make up a large portion of this wellness workforce in Ohio, we see them in a variety of settings, such as schools, community mental health, hospitals, and a growing number we see in private practices. I am always reminded of a quote our governor has said, that our system is not broken. It was never fully built. And in Ohio, we have been lucky enough to be under a governor who values mental health and has made great investments in making sure that we more fully build out this system. So as I said, today you'll be hearing parts of two videos, one from a peer supporter and one from a school-based social worker. And then we can play those videos and I'll be available for questions after.
Hello, and thank you, Alex, for doing this interview with us for the Great Lakes Mental Health Technology Transfer Center. We really appreciate you taking the time. And for those of you who are listening to this or watching this, this is Alex Thomas Holland, and she's with the organization called Neighborhood Properties, Inc. And she's just going to tell us about her role and what she does. So Alex, can you give us a little bit of background on your role and kind of what the objective of it is?
Sure. And thank you all for having me for this conversation. I really like to talk about what I do because I think it's really I won't say the fun part of mental health, but because everybody's role is important and enjoyable, but I really like what we get to do in the peer support role. So I'm the manager of the Wellness and Recovery Center at Neighborhood Properties. We are a peer respite crisis facility here in Lucas County. We are we fall on the crisis prevention side of crisis services. So we are a non-medical resource for somebody that might be experiencing emotionally distressing thoughts that could eventually lead to a full psychiatric crisis. So at the Wellness Center, we all identify as peers, as staff with lived experience. So we are peer supporters within our role, and our role is 100% our center is 100% managed by peers. So myself as the manager, the supervising coordinator, and then all of the recovery coach staffing. We really love it. It's one of the rare opportunities where you can use really some of the ugly parts of your own life and your personal story to help another person to find similarities and experiences to then help that other person improve their own circumstances. So we get to talk about ourselves and our life and how we've overcome struggles so we can be an example for other people. So we could potentially help them find their own path to recovery so that we can connect in a way that is most effective and most helpful for the client that we're serving.
Great. And you kind of went into a little bit of my next question, but how do people in this kind of peer support role spend their workday?
At the Wellness Center or a peer support role in general?
In general or at the center? Sure.
In general, you're making contact with your clients and you're meeting them where they're at. So a lot of times in Neighborhood Properties, we really like to send our peer supporters out to our clients that we know are going through a difficult time or having a hard time. And we're allowing them to do things that are completely different. On a given day, the case manager might be taking them to Job and Family Services to apply for food stamps. That's really boring. That's boring stuff. It's important, but it could be boring stuff. It could be stressful, where the peer supporter could put them in the car and take them to the movie theater or take them to the zoo. And while they're walking, you're talking about life. You're talking about how your week has gone, what those struggles are during the week. So a peer supporter really gets to help keep our clients engaged in the community, finding enjoyable aspects of their life while we're walking with them and talking to them about just things that are happening in their life. At the Wellness Center, it's very similar. So we're a residential facility. So in any given day, a peer supporter is kind of out in our main area waiting for our guests to, wake up for the day. We're cooking them meals. Sometimes we can cook meals together. We're sitting down and playing games with them, or just kind of having a real one-on-one conversation over coffee with them, or let's put on a really good movie that we might enjoy, and then afterwards go out for a walk. We really get to connect with people and give them a different experience while still centering their emotional and mental well-being. But we're doing it from a different angle. Their emotional and mental well-being is still front and center. We still find ways. So if we're going to go to the zoo while we're walking around and enjoying the animals, we may be talking about, how is your day going? What are you feeling? Are you a little anxious at the moment? What's going on that's making you a little anxious? Let's see if we can find a way to cope with that, that kind of thing.
Great. And then this next question is kind of twofold, but what's the typical educational path to get this role, and how long does it usually take someone? So
at Neighborhood Properties, we ask that somebody has a high school diploma or a GED. And then, there is a certification to be a peer supporter, which I find to be incredibly important. It's not a requirement to be a peer supporter in some areas of our state, but sometimes it depends on funding, but the certification of a peer supporter is incredibly important because it really does teach you how to use your personal story to help another person. Because again, we're not the focus, but we do share information about ourselves that's important to learn how to do correctly in a way that's most effective for another person. That certification course, I would say it's about 80 hours. You have your 40 hours of online training and your 40 hours of course training. And it does require you to do an application. You get approved through the state, and then you have continuing education credits that you do throughout the year. So I really like the opportunity for people to receive that certification because it gives them ownership of what they're doing and in their role. And there's also that continuing opportunity to keep learning and keep doing better and keep improving. And on top of that, at the Wellness Center, we do a decent amount of on-the-job training as well. So when we're hiring someone, we have at least 2 weeks of time where you're shadowing with another employee that's more seasoned, and you're kind of learning the day-to-day functions, the things that may happen in the center during the day. You're really seeing those happen in real time compared to going through like a manual. Obviously we have policies and procedures that we want people to study, learn, and know. But there's also a value in getting that hands-on experience. So, the peer certification training, certified peer supporter training is incredibly important. We do also love to support that with other trainings like mental health first aid, QPR, which is suicide prevention as well. Those are all trainings that someone can do within one day. And then chemical dependency counselor training also. Yeah, those are the things that we really think make a well-rounded peer supporter.
Great. And what would you say are some of the kind of the unique perks of being a peer supporter?
Really, sometimes we as individuals go through life, whether we're in the workplace or in social settings, and you never really get to talk or celebrate the things that you've overcome. And I think being a peer supporter is a true representation of that. You're a peer supporter because you may have a mental health diagnosis. You may be a survivor of trauma. You may be in recovery from substance use disorder. So it's almost like you're a walking example of someone that has overcome real struggles and trials and tribulations, or is living with and coping with real struggles in their life in ways where you get to talk about that. It's by identifying as a peer supporter, it's like we're welcoming individuals to ask us what we've gone through and how we've overcome it, for the sake of helping another person. And I think there's a lot of pride in that. And there's a lot of value in that. I wish we saw more people. You don't have to work as a peer supporter to get the peer support certification. I would love to see more people that maybe aren't even in the peer supporting role receive a certification as a certified peer supporter and use that when it's necessary. Because it really is a great opportunity to show pride in yourself, be examples to other people, and again, be a representation of someone that is willing to talk to you, that is willing to help you improve your life.
That's just really incredible. Thank you for sharing that and giving us perspective on this peer support role. Alex, I just want to thank you again for taking the time to do this interview and giving us insight into what it's like to be a peer supporter.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Hello and welcome to this interview with George, a social worker in Ohio. Thank you, George, for being with us today. And could you just tell us a little bit about what you do as a social worker and kind of how you spend your day?
I work at a behavioral health agency. So my typical day is in the schools, even though we are community-based. During the school year, I get to the school about 8 o'clock. I connect with the teachers and administration on specific clients that are having little issues in the schools, such as like behavior-wise. I go from classroom to classroom. I'm in the classrooms with the kids, providing services hands-on right then and there, teaching them their coping skills, redirecting them, assisting them with any needs that they may be having that can be challenging and cause maybe frustrations in the classroom. Once school is out, I stay maybe an hour later just to follow up with some teachers and get my documentation done. And if needed, I give clients rides home if their parents like send me a text or anything, if like they're unable to get them or something. And then in the summer, it's a bit different. We connect with the parents throughout the year. And then in the summer, we go pick up the kids and we take them in community settings to continue doing therapeutic behavioral services.
That's great. I didn't know you did so much directly with the kids. What is the kind of education pathway to kind of get this type of role, and how long did it take?
So there are 3 different roles. I am a TBS provider, so I provide therapeutic behavioral services, and my degree requires it's 4 years social work degree, or you can have like a counseling or a psychiatrist degree or something related to the field. And then there are other positions, a therapist, same degree, except you need your license. Most provide, you need like your master's as well. And if you do your undergrad, all social work, then your master's will take a year to get. And then the third role is the community psychiatric support system or treatment provider, sorry. Their requirements are they just need a few years working in the field with kids, not necessarily a 4-year degree. Just with some time working with like kids or in like school settings.
Okay, so you have a bachelor's in social work, and that was able to get you a job directly working with kids. And if you want, you can go get your license and maybe do more of the counseling therapy type stuff. But even with a bachelor's in social work, you're able to work directly with kids. Yeah. What is one perk of this job that you would say is kind of a draw?
The flexible hours. We're required to work 40 hours a week, but we're able to flex our hours. So there may be days where I have an appointment of my own and I can leave a little early, but then make up that time another day. That helps a lot, especially like our mental health.
Yeah, flexible hours is great. What would you say are some of the job prospects out there? Do you think this is kind of a in-demand field right now?
Yes, I believe so. There are a lot of agencies popping up all over Toledo and Ohio. There are like several services that provide the same as us. So, and more are going into the schools and working with the schools.
Great. Is there anything else you'd like to share about what you do as a social worker?
Yeah, so I enjoy this job as because I like working with the kids, and I like teaching them coping skills and helping them process their feelings and emotions. So there are two different positions, kind of. There you can either be in an elementary school or you can work with high school kids. I personally work with elementary, so my clients are from kindergarten to 8th grade. And I enjoy the summertime because we're able to do more. We practice more mindfulness during the summer, like at the parks and stuff like that.
I've learned a lot today, so I really appreciate you taking the time to be here to do this interview with me. And, thank you for your continued work with students on their mental health.
Thank you for having me.
Elijah, thank you for sharing all those pieces of Ohio and just different opportunities that are available. I don't see any questions in the Q&A section, but just a reminder, if you guys have any, feel free to add them. So if you don't have anything further, Elijah, I will turn it over to Allison Forthus from Wisconsin.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cherie. Hello, everyone. I'm with the Wisconsin Association of Family and Children's Agencies, and we are the collective voice for human services agencies throughout our state. So we're a nonprofit association that has served Wisconsin for over 40 years with the motto, partnering to improve lives. Our community is made up of providers of services in mental and behavioral health, substance use treatment, residential treatment, adoption, foster care, peer support, and much more. Our work as an association falls into 3 main categories. So we say advocate, inform, and connect. So for advocacy, we directly advocate for policies that support human services and the well-being of individuals, children, and families. Under inform, we provide a wide variety of monthly continuing education events to promote workforce development, as well as biweekly newsletters with need-to-know policy changes, research, funding opportunities, resources, and more. And then that connect category, we create opportunities for connection, leadership development, and idea sharing among those in the field. And we do that through interest groups, communities of practice, and annual events as well. On top of all of that, we also support the work of the Coalition for Expanding School-Based Mental Health in Wisconsin, and that is relevant to our conversation today. I'll be sharing an interview in just a few moments here with a school-based mental health therapist at a rural school in Wisconsin. So part of my interest in this topic is that I'm a teacher by trade. I was a Spanish teacher for years in high school. And when I left the classroom after several years of teaching, I really hoped to find some way. I didn't even know that school-based mental health was a thing back then, but I really hoped to find some way to support the mental health of students because I knew firsthand that the need was great. In fact, last year, 6 out of every 10 Wisconsin high school students reported at least one mental health concern, and only about half of students said that they felt like they belong at school. So I'm really passionate about meeting the needs of adolescents where they are, and most of them are in schools. So today I'll be sharing an interview with a school-based mental health therapist who operates in a pretty rural area of Wisconsin. Her name is Jess, and she's an energizing participant in our communities of practice and a really passionate advocate for both rural mental health and school mental health. So I hope you enjoy our conversation. Hey, Jess, thank you so much for being here today. Thanks. We are going to talk a little bit about the role of a school-based mental health counselor, and I'd love to get a little introduction to you and how you got where you are.
Yeah, so I am a licensed clinical social worker, and I work for North Lakes Community Clinic, which covers kind of the northern half of Wisconsin, very rural. And I got into this, I think mainly because I just wanted to help people, and specifically people going through trauma. And I ended up doing school-based things when I was working with a large youth population in a day treatment and outpatient clinic, and really just seeing that need of how many kids could use services that can't access them. And so working with the local school districts to try to open up that access. And I really just fell in love with it and the whole model. And, there's a few drawbacks, but overall, it's been such a rewarding type of service to get out there. So it's just kind of grew and grew. And now I'm the director of our school-based services here. So.
What would you say is the objective of the role of a school-based mental health counselor?
I would say there's probably two main goals to be a school-based provider. I think the first, and I guess they're interchangeable, not necessarily in order, but one of them would be to offer the same quality services that you would provide in the clinic, but getting that to the kids at the school. So quality services. And the second would be increasing access. On average, we attend an appointment at a clinic. Like, in order to attend an appointment at a clinic, it requires 2 to 3 hours out of the parent's day or the guardian's day and the student's day away from school. And that takes a really big toll when that student needs to be seen every week or every other week. So if we can cut that down to 30 minutes or 45 minutes out of that week, it nearly eliminates it for the parent if they don't have to miss work or any of the travel time. And the travel cost involved is eliminated. We are making a significant impact on improving access to mental health services for kids.
What would you say the education path looks like, or preparation path looks like, for someone interested in this type of career?
I think it would be the same as it would be for the clinic. A lot of master's programs include kid-based things. So diagnosis or differential diagnosis for kids, engaging with parents, groups are definitely an option at the school. And a lot of master's programs do a really good job of including, all ages in how to treat that for mental health. If, of course, yours didn't, well, then getting some extra training on how to do kid-based mental health. You do not have to have play therapy. That's a common misconception, is that people have to be certified in play therapy, or they have to do all of these extra huge certifications on child and adolescent mental health. You don't need to, unless you don't feel comfortable or competent in approaching that. Then by all means, get all of that training. Otherwise, the paths that are led to get your licensed professional counselor, licensed marriage and family therapist, or licensed clinical social worker, those all do just fine. They do great.
Yeah, and with those 3 kind of different tracks people might take towards school-based mental health, you said professional counselor, marriage and family therapist, or social worker.
Clinical social worker, yeah.
Clinical social worker, thank you. Are those typically a master's program that someone would take after an undergraduate degree?
Yes, yep. And there's a bunch of different titles out there for what those master programs are. A master's in counseling, or a master's in marriage therapy, or, mine was just a master in social work, but with a clinical specialty or clinical track. So that's an important piece, or you will not qualify for a licensure as mental health. So, and then, the time involved in that is really dependent on how fast your track is. So typically 4-year bachelor degree, most commonly in psychology or social work or sociology. And then however long your master's is, a lot of them are 2 years. But if you do part-time, that might stretch out. And then just the time involved in getting your in-training license. So a lot of people who work in school-based mental health are LPCIT, like the licensed professional counselor in training, or an APSW, or those kinds of things. And that's very doable. That shouldn't deter anybody from thinking they can't do it because they don't have their full independent license. There's lots of supervision out there for that. So.
Yeah, and so I'm hearing that after an undergraduate degree, there's a master's degree, and then after that, someone is actually able to earn money while they're getting their licensure.
Yes. So while the internship might not be a paid internship, or it's paid in experience, once you graduate with your master's and you apply for your in-training license, you often have to, have an employer. So that could be the other catch in some time frame there, is finding an employer that will hire and take on an in-training LPC or LMFT or social worker or something. And then those are paid salaries. You don't have to work that 2 years and get all those hours as unpaid by any means. And oftentimes your supervision that's required during that in-training period, your employer will provide.
Awesome. So paid on the job training.
Yes. Yeah. And I think of it as a really good, both the in-training license experience and if you can get an internship somewhere, even if it's not paid, are really good, like reverse interviews for you to see, is this the type of agency I want to work for, whether it's a nonprofit or a for-profit or a private or whatever it is. But also a really good time to try out different things to see what fits for you.
And how would you describe, generally speaking, like the job prospects? I know you might be most familiar with in Wisconsin specifically, but what's it looking like?
I would say the demand for it is huge. And so there are tons of places with open positions that are looking to hire both in training and fully licensed people. Even if you don't have a ton of experience working with kids, they will help build those skills. So I would say it is a very abundant in terms of open positions and options, both rural and urban.
Thank you so much for talking a little bit about this position today. Is there anything you want to share before we wrap up?
I think maybe just a few of the benefits of the position that I like to talk about. And it depends a little bit on your philosophy. And I hit on it a bit, that really that access. So the number of kids, it's one of the main perks that I like about it, is all of those kids that I see in my day, there's a fraction of them that would actually get to the clinic. So the impact that we have on our youth to help prevent those mental health struggles developing into some scary things as adults is one of the biggest perks. And that they can apply what you're doing in session immediately. They leave your room and they are immediately back into their school setting, in their social networks, and they can practice those social skills or that assertive communication or following through with their homework and getting those grades up, whatever it is, compared to 3 hours later or the next day if they come to the clinic. But one of the downfalls is kind of the speed of it. So like I said before, that you might only have 2 minutes in between sessions and the parent isn't there. So sometimes school-based isn't the best fit for a kid, and having to have that conversation with the family that the struggle would be better addressed through family sessions, including like our 5 and 6 year old kids. There's only so much we can do individually because really it's the system we have to work with within that family system specifically. So I like to point those things out to people so they kind of know what they're getting into. It's a little bit faster paced. You don't have those parents right there, and you have to be a little bit more creative in how to get that parent engagement. But it's so worth it because these kids would just never have it.
Yeah, and I imagine the ability to connect with school staff as well about what's coming up for some of the kids and partnering on their needs might be a benefit.
Yeah. They spend the vast majority of their awake day at school. And so to be in that environment and being able to collaborate, as long as parents allow it, collaborate with those school staff about the student and their struggles and to help them problem solve and practice things, or to hand the student off after a really hard session and say, hey, they might be coming in a little bit emotional, give them a few minutes, or could you check in on them, later in the day because I won't be able to be able to create that team around them in an environment that they're in for more time than they're at home, which is kind of sad, is also really powerful. It's been harder to do from an outpatient clinic setting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much for being here today to talk about your passion for school-based mental health.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Allison, and for sharing that video It was wonderful. I don't see any specific questions in the Q&A, so I will turn it over to our final state to show today before we turn it over to Commander Cheryl Trail from HRSA. So without further ado, I welcome Meredith O'Brien from Illinois.
Hi, everyone. My name is Meredith O'Brien. I am the Vice President of Public Policy and Training at the Illinois Association for Behavioral Health. Our association has about 80 members who are mental health and substance use disorder and recovery providers in the state. We also have a few prevention programs in the school, the Sebring Goodman Teen Institute, Operation Snowball, and Focus. We were just recently awarded the PACS grant, which is a public awareness campaign on substance use and support, which we are gladly excited to grow as an association and make a difference in the state. The video and career we focused on is a school-based mental health counselor. Our interview is with Carrie Coughlin, who is one of my friends, and she is a school counselor based in Southern Illinois. We chose this career as well because of our prevention programs that are in the schools, and we have a long-standing relationship with all mental health counselors in the schools in the state. Counselors in the schools are important because not only are they helping with youth with any mental health or behavioral health problems, but they also take time to ensure that every student is prepared for their future after high school, whether that be career planning, college prepping, or even making sure they are connected to the right person, such as a military recruiter. When it comes to statistics on school counselors, the Bureau of Labor Statistics states that this career is projected to grow 4% from 2023 to 2033. There is about 29,000 vacancies every year, and that can account for retirement or people just leaving the industry. The national average of school counselors to students is about 385 to 1 student, and the Association on School Counselors actually recommends about 250 to 1, even though I guarantee you that most people would want it lower than that. So I'm happy to turn it over to Christina to start the video with Carrie. Hi, my name is Meredith O'Brien. I am with the Illinois Association for Behavioral Health, the Illinois node for the MHTTC. I am here with Carrie Coughlin. Carrie, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I am a school counselor at Cowden Herrick Junior Senior High, and it's my 3rd year there.
Okay, and then what is the age group for that? You typically, what is the age group of kids that you typically see?
So I have 6th grade to seniors, but if something were to happen, I would get called to the elementary.
Okay. And then what part of the state do you serve? What's the community like?
So I'm in rural central Illinois, so small town community.
About how many kids are in your school?
Our school is tiny. It is about maybe 200 for K-12.
Okay. What made you want to go into this career? Like, was there a pivotal moment in your life that you're like, I want to be a school counselor?
So I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. I went to college and then didn't have a major for 2.5 years. And then my advisor basically said, this is the path of all your classes you've been taking. So there's probably a reason to it. And then I graduated with a bachelor's in psych and realized you can't do much and needed to do something else. So there wasn't like a pivotal moment until after undergrad, and I started looking at what else was out there. I was like, oh, I had really bad anxiety in school. I hated school. Maybe I can be an advocate for the kids who are just like me.
Nice. So what are the main objectives of your role from day to day?
So it really varies depending on your school district, but essentially, I think to sum it up, what we do the most, or what we essentially do, is just promote and acknowledge that every student in the school should have an equal opportunity to be successful outside of school.
Okay. And then what does your day-to-day look like? So do kids come to you when they have a rough day? Kind of what are the concerns you see in young adults?
So again, it really every day is totally different. So it could be a kid in crisis, paperwork, IEPs, scheduling, college prep, testing.
All the things.
Kind of goes on. I mean, it just depends.
Yeah. So you said you got your bachelor's in psychology?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and so what was the process of getting your master's like?
So to get your master's in school counseling, you just need a bachelor's of, I think, any kind of bachelor's degree. And then I went through a 3-year master's program that I think all programs now have ventured away from school counseling as a track. So you go through a mental health counseling and then get an endorsement in schools. So I had a 3-year program after my bachelor's.
Okay, did you have any internships after that, or was it straight into the system?
The internship was embedded into the program. So it was 3 years of school with a 1.5 year internship in the program.
Gotcha. What would you say are some pros and cons of your job?
I think the most common answer to that is you're in education and you get the summers off. And I mean, I like the pro that every day is different, because I would get so bored if every day looked the same. So I like the flexibility of it, and that I don't have to stand in front of students and teach, but I can still advocate for them and have that avenue with them. But I would say a downfall is pay, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, if you're just not flexible or adapt for it, I think it could be really stressful and you could burn out pretty quick.
So what do you think is the most demanding part about your job?
Probably the fact that it varies so much. So, I mean, I could go into the day and think I'm doing this, this, and this, and not get any of that done, and then still have to have it done when it's due, you know?
Yeah. On average, how much do you think you do overtime for working?
I'm very solid on my boundaries, so I won't do anything before or after school. So I think it's just about like juggling the time management to make sure you get all the things done. Because at the end of the day, if a kid comes in crisis or they're suicidal, I mean, that takes priority over whatever you were doing.
I totally agree on boundaries with working between the time that you're given.
In contract time, you will not find me after.
Yeah. So comparatively to like, if you were to do this job in Chicago, is there like much of a pay difference? Like, do you think there is some sort of competition between pay and salaries?
I think so, but I'm always torn between, is it really a pay difference or is the cost of living higher in Chicago? So like I looked it up and it was like the average range was like 30 to 70 in Illinois. Seems like a huge gap, but I don't know if that's just cost of living or I don't know. But I know from my position personally, my school board negotiated my salary, so it didn't start at the normal tier.
Right. Okay. When it comes going back to kind of like your schooling, was there plenty of scholarships, or do you know of any loan forgiveness situations that you are eligible for?
I am not the best person for that. I don't know. I didn't do any loans, but I know there's like teacher forgiveness loans, and I would assume we would fall into that category.
Right.
I really don't know. I know that you still get that 6-month grace period once you graduate to repay loans, but I don't know. I know for masters in general, I think the financial aid is typically lower than undergrad.
Yeah. Did you go straight into your master's after bachelor's? Yeah. Did you go to the same school or different schools?
Different schools.
Different. Okay. I was just wondering.
Yeah.
Did you have any other comments for anything you wanted to add?
No, is there anything you want to know?
I guess kind of going back to the burnout, like have you experienced it? And like if you have, has it been related to like paperwork or kind of what would you say if you were to experience it? What would you think it would be?
I think it can be really hard when you're taking kids in their most vulnerable moments and then listening and trying to soothe them and calm them and bring them back down. Because I mean, some of it's hard, like abuse or neglect or DCFS involved, or I mean, some of the stuff can be really heavy. So I think burnout is super common if you don't have those boundaries and you take it home with you. I mean, me personally, no, because my master's like drilled burnout and how common it is. So I feel like because of that and most of my family working in schools and doing the opposite, like not having those boundaries, I've seen the toll it can take. So me personally, no, but I definitely see how strong it could be.
Yeah. Was there anything that your master's did not prepare you for this field?
Yeah, most of it. I think, especially like I said, most of the programs are straying away from a school counselor program. You don't learn the aspects of like school, like testing, scheduling, like 75% of your job. Like, yes, I know what to do when a kid comes in crisis, but do I know how to make a master or give a state test?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, you weren't taught that. Yeah. That's more of like a teacher path.
Yeah, like we didn't have training in that. So that was more like learn as you go. Good luck.
Gotcha.
Which can be a downfall for sure.
Yeah. I think most careers are kind of a learned process anymore, but that's just my 2 cents.
I agree.
All right. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much, Meredith. I appreciate that. And another example of how to access different careers, and that one highlighting from Illinois. So I don't see any Q&A for you at this time. So I think I'm going to hand it over to Commander Cheryl Trail from HRSA, and she will share her slides and introduce herself a bit more. So thank you for joining us and wrapping us up today.
All right. Hi, Cherie. Well, really nice to be with all of you. And the last interview was a perfect lead up. I couldn't have asked for a better question, which was questions about how do you fund this career path? And hope to spend a few minutes with you. I'll introduce myself real quick, give you a little bit of my background, tell you a little bit about HRSA and how we invest in the workforce, how that might benefit you, and how you can get a hold of me and my team in the future. So I'm Cheryl Trail. I am a licensed clinical psychologist by training, actually. And the uniform, if you aren't familiar, I am also active duty in the U.S. Public Health Service. Many of you probably saw the Surgeon General on your televisions for a couple years in a row when we went through COVID. And so there's about 7,000 active duty public health officers. And that is one career pathway that I will share a little bit that's separate from HRSA. But the U.S. Public Health Service has active duty, master's level licensed clinical social workers. No LPCs, unfortunately, but LCSWs, licensed clinical psychologists like myself, psychiatric nurse practitioners, and psychiatrists all have roles in the public health service. So I'm going to share my screen and let you know a little bit about me and about my team, and then hopefully we'll have a little time left over for some discussion. All right, so let me work on my share. Cherie, is sound good? We've got good sound?
Yep, I hear you great.
Okay, wonderful. All right, here we go. Let's do this in slideshow form. Okay, so like I said, I'm Cheryl Trail. I am the regional administrator for HRSA, which stands for Health Resources Services Administration. We do quite a bit, and I'm going to do a quick overview because I know we don't have much time, and I really do want to focus on workforce investments. But I work in the Office of Intergovernmental Affairs, so my role is to work with states and tribes and communities to help these Great Lakes states better utilize HRSA funding and HRSA resources. So let me tell you a little bit about my journey, because I did utilize loan repayment and opportunities to go into the public health service as a way to pay for my journey into becoming a psychologist. So quick background, I actually have a bachelor's degree in family studies from Kent State. I am from this Region 5 Great Lakes area. My family's from Michigan. I grew up mostly in Ohio, and then did my doctorate training in Illinois. So I have a bachelor's in family studies, which is the old home ec degree, believe it or not. And then I spent about 10 years doing AmeriCorps. I worked with people with developmental disabilities, autistic folks. I helped manage people's Medicaid waivers. I did a lot of case management and worked also in job development, job coaching for people with disabilities. So that's my background. And then about 10 years after I got my bachelor's, I went ahead and went to Adler here in Chicago and got a master's of counseling and a doctorate of psychology. And after I finished my residency at the Cook County Jail, I am the first in my family on both sides to attain a terminal degree or a higher degree. My mom is an RN and was really excited to be able to enter this health field. But I knew that I could not do this alone. And because of my background, and those of you that are on the call, if you're already thinking about your career path is connected to public service, or that you really want to work with communities. I've heard these interviews are fantastic about helping increase access to people that wouldn't necessarily have access to behavioral health care. If that is you, if that's something you're interested in, then you might really be interested in HRSA's loan repayment programs. So when I joined the public health service, the first 12 years, I worked as a clinical psychologist and behavioral health director across multiple Indian Health Service duty stations. And I will acknowledge I am not an enrolled tribal member, but part of my journey also across all of these Indian Health Service duty stations was to help folks from the community all the way down into middle school to see these jobs as great pathways into great work, including starting as peer recovery specialists, starting in the addictions world as addictions counselors, and then all the way into becoming a psychologist or psychiatrist if that was their dream. So started out in the rural area of New Mexico, up near Gallup, New Mexico, the Four Corners area. So a lot of experience in rural and frontier care, as well as integrated care into healthcare, hospital, and primary care settings. And then I went on to work for a chapter of the Navajo Nation. We stayed in New Mexico. But just I like to tell this story a little bit more with pictures. So there's no housing for healthcare or school employees. So that one picture is a duplex of some of the tribal housing that was built for us. You can see our rural clinic, and that cross there is for the helicopter pad. So that was how we got people to higher level of care if they were in any sort of medical or behavioral health emergency. And this is our adoptive dog down here that did not like cattle grates. So he learned very quickly how to run around that. So I was here for about 3 years. And then I was the behavioral health director for the Klamath tribes in Southern Oregon, right on the California border. And then came back to your neck of the woods. I heard the Wisconsin interview. So I spent 5 years as the training director at Oneida Nation outside of Green Bay, Wisconsin. So not from Wisconsin, but from Michigan and Ohio, and had done my graduate training in Illinois. I was happy to be back in the Great Lakes area. And that's a picture of a blizzard in, I think it was April, and that's our clinic there on the right. But all of these opportunities weren't only opportunities to really have unique and interesting healthcare experience and being able to do really interesting patient care, but it also was an opportunity to utilize loan repayment for myself to be a psychologist, but as a hiring behavioral health director to also help utilize HRSA programming, National Health Service Corps, as a way to recruit and retain. So if I have folks on the call today that are hiring folks, then it's also a great way to help recruit and retain. Feel free, we're going to share these slides out. I think Cherie is probably going to do that. And feel free to look at this interview. It's the 50th anniversary 2 years ago of National Health Service Corps. And that's the main loan repayment program that HRSA funds. And you can hear just a little bit more about my story. So this agency that maybe you haven't heard much about, you can see what our priorities are, but I really want you to look at the bottom 2 bullet points. Integrating behavioral health into primary care and growing the healthcare workforce are major goals of HRSA. So one of the programs that we fund are primary care clinics or community health centers. The federal government loves acronyms. You might hear of them as federally qualifying health centers, FQHCs. But these are places where people with no insurance or underinsured can get access to quality primary care without, they do not have to have the ability to pay. No one is turned away. And over the years, HRSA has become more and more invested in integrated behavioral health care. So we heard some interviews with school counselors, and just to know that healthcare and primary care is another area if you're interested in doing that kind of integrated care. So these are the folks we serve. We really focus on serving community that has limited access to all sorts of care, whether that is HIV care, whether that is primary care, behavioral health care, and maternal child health services. This oftentimes happens in rural and frontier areas, but we also have shortages of health professionals in urban areas as well. So this is the office I'm in, and really, like I said earlier, our goal is to be your point of contact here in the region, that if you have questions specific to HRSA programming, instead of having to call Rockville or DC area to some anonymous phone number, you can just reach out to me or reach out to my team, and we can help get you connected in the right direction. The Department of Health and Human Services is broken into 10 regions, and SAMHSA also is connected to this same regional map. So here we are in the light blue in Chicago here in Region 5. So these are our core functions. I'm going to skip through some of these because I really want to get to the healthcare or loan repayment slides so you can think about potential avenues. Okay, so like I said, we do a lot of work in primary care, and this is how we increase access to healthcare services. Many people that are on multiple different types of loan repayment programs as health professionals, including behavioral health professionals, work in these community health centers or FQHCs. So we also run the Ryan White HIV/AIDS program. You may or may not have heard of this program. Oftentimes, the grantees are state and county health departments, as well as community health centers that also really focus on treating and caring for population with HIV. I think as behavioral health providers, this is really good to know, because if you are interested in doing dual diagnosis work, as we know, the connection between addictions and mental health challenges, along with the increased risk of STIs and at-risk behavior, I think working in this arena can be really interesting, creative work. These are just 2 tools to be able to find a health center or find an HIV Ryan White provider. I like to share this with you all, even though you're looking at how to move into these behavioral health careers. One of the barriers to even academic success in different programs is, managing your own healthcare and making sure that you have good quality healthcare, or that your family does. So I encourage you to use these health service tools to make sure that you and your family are getting the kind of primary care that you need. So we do a lot of work around maternal child health, and wanted to highlight this program that we have, which is a hotline. It is not part of 988, but it can be connected to 988. And it is TLC Mama. You can call or text. It's really an opportunity for people to call if they have questions, for pregnant people, for young parents, for maybe a neighbor that's worried about a young parent or a pregnant person. That you do not have to be in a behavioral health crisis, but just an opportunity to talk to someone who is trusted. There are behavioral health licensed folks on the line, as well as doulas, lactation specialists. And if you call or get free materials, there's magnets and all sorts of things. So if you're already working in the field and you don't know about the National Maternal Mental Health Hotline, and you think it would help or benefit your clients or patients, please order our free materials and help get the word out. So these are our main maternal child health programs. We have money in programs that work on Healthy Start, that do mainly home visiting programs. We also have programs called the Title V Block Grant, and that grant does a lot of interesting, unique work and based on what the state needs around maternal child health. And then we also are supporting the maternal child health workforce. So helping to have different communities increase the exposure to maternal child health careers. Okay, so like I said, we're integrating behavioral health into primary care. And you can take a look at this. But let's talk about what you're here to talk about. And I will talk for a few more minutes and then we'll open it up for discussion. But HRSA supports multiple providers with multiple different types of health professions to be able to improve access to care. Well, how do we do that? We identify areas, like I said, that could be urban or rural, that we call health professional shortage areas. So we know there are not enough LPCs, there are not enough LCSWs, there are not enough psychologists or nurse practitioners. And we then score that community based on the lack of a certain health profession. And based on that score, then organizations and agencies can be sites where their employees then qualify for loan repayment programs. So this is how we expand access to care. Now, that is just at the service area. So I started at the end. Let me back up. HRSA also has many grants and investments in training health professionals, including behavioral health professionals, in that higher ed or educational space. We also have money where we're supporting formal residency and training types of programs at health centers so that students can get exposure to what working in a health professional shortage area looks like. And then that last component is the one that you are likely the most interested in, which is loan repayment. You are in the right business, folks. I've been a psychologist now, headed towards 15 years, but we just managed to put these projected workforce shortages out in the last year. And as you can see, the behavioral health predicted shortages for providers is significant. And because of that, one, I keep hearing the word burnout, and understandably, because I think a lot of us are working the best we can with limited resources or not enough staff. So that is one challenge around keeping yourself well in this profession. But the other more positive area is that you will, if you enjoy the work, you will likely never be out of a job. We are really a necessary component to people's overall wellness and health, and our roles are not going away in either school settings, hospitals, primary care, standalone behavioral health clinics, private practice, you name it. We have a role to play. These are the multitude of different loan repayment programs. As you can see, they are all closed right now. They open up in different cycles, but we've hyperlinked the email so that you can sign up for HRSA emails, and then you will get notice when these different loan repayment opportunities open back up. The first one on the top left is applying to become a National Health Service Corps site. So that's not you as a clinician looking for loan repayment. That is a nonprofit organization or an organization that serves community members in a health professional shortage area, that they would like to be a site so that they can offer loan repayment as a recruitment and retention tool. The next one is a newer loan repayment program we call it the STAR program, but it's the Substance Use Disorder Treatment and Recovery Loan Repayment Program. Man, is that a mouthful, right? So the STAR program. And the exciting thing about the STAR program, it is a 3-year contract, but we extended this program to also provide loan repayment opportunities for people that are certified substance use counselors. And in the past, we did not do that. We only started at the independent licensure LPCC or LPC, depending on your state, and LCSW. But the STAR program was an opportunity and a way to try and address the opioid epidemic and to help get, especially in rural communities, get providers that would stay longer so that we could set up programs like medication assisted treatment, intensive outpatient. And that's a really successful program. We have a pediatric specialty loan repayment program. You're probably not as interested in that. And I don't know if I have folks on the call that are becoming psychiatric nurse practitioners or going down that nursing pathway, but we do have a whole other separate loan repayment program for RNs and mid-level nurse practitioners, not only psychiatric nurse practitioners, but primary care nurse practitioners also. The area in the middle is the main program. That's the program that I was on for 10 years, the National Health Service Corps Loan Repayment Program. Once you meet the criteria and you have a qualifying degree and independent license. So I know for our master's level folks, that can be a little tricky because you're waiting on those 2 years of postgraduate supervision for your state licensure bodies to provide you that independent licensure. But once you have that, then you qualify for National Health Service Corps. This is a hyperlink to the Health Workforce Connector. So this is a website that's kind of like its own job website that you would go to, or LinkedIn, or I think it's Monster. But what it is agencies and sites, you can upload your information, plus you can see their information. It's a bit of a matchmaker to be able to see what kind of jobs are available. And even if you aren't independently licensed yet, but you are open to either a geographic move or working in a community that maybe you're not originally from, then start looking at these career opportunities. You can filter based on your position. And there are virtual job fairs also that help you find positions. I will also let you know that in the Chicago office, we have some public health analysts that work specifically for HRSA, but in the loan repayment program. So if you do reach out to me or my team, based on what your state is, I can get you in touch with someone who works specifically in these programs and could offer you more technical assistance. So I've talked quite a bit about these shortage areas, but just wanted to let you know that we are looking at geographic areas, but also different population types that qualify as health professional shortage areas. For example, all Indian Health Service clinics and hospitals qualify as a shortage area and qualify for National Health Service Corps. Then we look at the type of fields. And so the shortage area is dependent on what the profession is. And we break it into 3 categories. You can see here, what is the shortage of dentists in a certain community? What's the shortage of all the different variety of primary care providers? And what's the shortage in behavioral health? And so based on that shortage number, allows you to know if that facility will likely have a loan repayment program. You can, there's almost 23,000 providers that are on loan repayment right now, and wanted to also, let me minimize myself so I can see, 43% of folks that are on loan repayment right now actually have a behavioral health degree. So lots of behavioral health providers are utilizing our loan repayment program. You can see who is eligible for National Health Service Corps, and I've already shared this, but I didn't share marriage and family therapists, so MFTs, LPCs, LCSWs, health service psychologists, also our clinical psychologists, they also count. So those are our 4 behavioral health degrees, along with our psychiatric nurse practitioners and psychiatrists that would qualify for loan repayment. What it is right now, it's dependent on appropriations from Congress, but what it is right now is a 2-year contract. And if you're working at the clinic full-time, it's $25,000 a year or $50,000 for the 2 years, and that is untaxed. The other thing to remember about our program is that we the agency you work for has to pay you a competitive wage. So it's not that they can drop your pay by $25,000 because of this loan repayment program. So you would have competitive pay on top of this loan repayment program. Here's more information about nurse loan repayment. It's set up a little different from the behavioral health professions. And then lastly, we do have some HRSA money that we awarded to schools and clinics around helping health providers, including behavioral health providers, with resiliency or well-being. So all of us are incredibly resilient. As a public health officer, my other duties are to work as a psychologist in a deployment setting. And every time I deploy, it is so clear that we are all, as providers, highly resilient. How do we sustain well-being though? How do we stay well in this environment, especially around shortages and some of the challenging work that we face? Wanted to highlight some policy work that we're working on, where we're really working with states to build multi-state compacts, because it's really hard to transfer your license from state to state. And so just wanted you to see that part of that policy work was working on some awardees that we're going to work with their licensing bodies. So if I have anyone from licensing bodies today, this is pretty exciting work. And then some more technical assistance centers that have a lot of great resources for you, although I know you're most interested in loan repayment. If you are looking for grants at HRSA, you can sign up so that you can find grants and that you can get notified when grant opportunities show up. We also can provide you technical assistance in my office if you are wanting some help looking for forecasted or posted funding opportunities. The National Health Service Corps loan repayment does not show up on the grant side of things. So you're going to want to go back to that slide that has information about National Health Service Corps and signing up for that listserv so you get notification when cycles are open. Here are some more HRSA resources. And I know I'm going fast because I want to make sure that we have some time for questions. But this is me. And really happy that you're here, happy that you are in the behavioral health profession, and happy to support your career journey. Thank you, Cherie, even for the invitation and connecting with us in our office.
Oh, thank you for being able to join us today. I only asked Cheryl probably maybe 3 weeks ago, and she made time to be here for us. So we're super excited to be able to kind of bring the whole continuum of, the behavioral health field is incredibly wonderful to work into. It's not all scary, and there are options sometimes to help us along the way. But we don't all have to be struggling in debt forever. We do have some options. So just really appreciative of those opportunities. And I was a National Health Service Corps member too, back in like 2012. So it's been a while, but it was such a blessing to my family and to just being able to work in the field I love and care about, and in the agency that I was already working at, to be able to then find a good work-life balance too, right? So really just appreciated that opportunity. So it's nice to just see that it's still going and it's still available all these years later. So also makes me feel a little old, but that's fine.
I know. Same. Same.
Yeah. So I don't see any questions in the Q&A, but feel free to pop those in there if you guys do have anything. You'll see that Jen from our team put a few reminders off to the side in the chat. So feel free to peruse those as well. She also is incredibly fast at getting everything out on our website too, and already has Commander Cheryl's slides up on our website.
Oh, great.
So any of those QR things you want to look at, or links that you want to hit, you'll be able to see them right away on that slide deck right on our website. So just some reminders that our grant is ending in 20 days. So please go out to our website, steal as many resources, download them, grab them, keep them in a locked box for your future. But if you miss it, just a reminder that we will be putting them on our CHESS website from the UW-Madison hub that we work at. So we just really appreciate everyone joining us today. We hope that you learned a few things and that you're willing to share all of the wonderful interviews, resources, links, those types of things with anyone within your community. Think about even your sons and daughters, middle schools, high schools, colleges, those types of things. We would really love for them to see what exciting opportunities there are out there in the behavioral health field. So without further ado, we'll give you 2 minutes back in your day, since I don't see any questions rolling in. And just again, thank you so much for your time, and have a good rest of your day. Thanks so much.